Hey YouTube, it's Langsta here, and this is episode 16 of Cooking Final Fantasy 15 Foods. Today I'm going to be making the classic tomato and egg stir fry. Before we begin, if you haven't already, do follow me on Twitter at langstaL and help support me with my costs at Patreon. You can find the link in the top right corner. There are now 8 of you supporting me, contributing about $19 per month. Thank you so much for contributing, because this is now covering one of the cheaper meals costs. The ingredients for this week's dish are popping up on the screen now, and as you can see, there aren't that many because this week we are making an extremely simple dish, the classic tomato and egg stir fry. This is actually one of my childhood favorites, and this is going to be my first time making it in this style. And now without any further ado, let's get to the cooking. Firstly, crack the 3 eggs into a bowl. Season well with salt and whisk it. Next up, chop 2 of the tomatoes into thin vertical slices. And then for the rest of the tomatoes, chop them into really small pieces. This is to make the base of the dish. Next, heat up a saucepan on a relatively high heat. I used 9 out of 9 on an electric stove. However, if you're using gas, I'd say a medium-high heat. Pour in the oil. And when hot, place in the small pieces of chopped up tomatoes. Cook these while continuously stirring until they soften. To reduce the amount of moisture lost, place a lid on the saucepan. When the tomatoes have softened, crush them into a pulp using your spatula or spoon and add in the water. Next, add in the vertically sliced pieces of tomato and cook them until they are also soft. Once they are soft, pour in the egg mixture on top and immediately turn off the heat. And that's it. This dish is as simple as that.
Right, so it's cooked a tiny bit different to how I would normally eat it at home. So at home we would cook the egg first and then add in the tomatoes and then stew that on really low heat for a long time. And then we also put more soy sauce in. So what happens is you get this really nice savory, salty flavor that goes through the whole dish. That is amazing. So for this one it's different because we do the tomatoes first to make it go into this kind of soup of tomato, and then we add in the egg at the very top without cooking it completely, although now it's already cooked from the residual heat, but the initial idea was there. And also there's less soy sauce, so it is slightly different, but the flavor is there. So I'm gonna just dig in now. Oh, what's not to like about this? Oh yeah. So this dish is a really healthy dish. It's literally just 3 components: soy sauce / salt, something that's salty to add flavor, tomatoes, and eggs. And those 3 things are really good for you because A, tomatoes are anti-cancer apparently, eggs, protein, bit of energy from the yolk, fat, and then salt, which we need, just not too much of. So this style is actually quite different to the way I normally eat it. The eggs a lot softer in this one. So in the game, these kind of dishes don't seem to have any rice with them, but in real life, when you eat it, you actually eat it with rice or noodles. My family loves eating it with noodles. Thick, freshly made Chinese noodles with this is amazing. So one thing I've noticed about this one, because the eggs aren't completely cooked, you have a more creamy kind of taste to it. Now, personally, I don't like that. I prefer the eggs to have more of a character to them. So when you're eating them, you know you're eating an egg. Whereas this one is kind of too creamy. Because the eggs are cooked at the very end, you don't get that nice flavor which you get when you fry an egg or scramble. So when the egg touches the oil, it creates this distinct flavor which we all know very well, but we don't get it with this one, which is quite sad. So one of my fondest memories is just in China at my grandparents' house, eating egg and tomato with noodles. We'd make it ourselves, we'd also make or buy the noodles outside. They used to have these little stores outside, and they would buy the noodles downstairs and cook it for me. And we would have this massive bowl of egg and tomato with more soy sauce than this. So it's really salty, but you know, really flavoursome. So when you put it on the noodles, the flavour isn't drowned out by the carbs. And we would eat it with a Chinese cucumber, which is really small and really thin and long, and is very gnarly looking. It's got loads of spots or something on it, but it's not real spots, it's not nasty. It's actually a lot more crunchy and a lot more fresh tasting than Western cucumbers. We would also have garlic, raw garlic, and you would eat the raw garlic while eating this, and all together, those flavors were married together perfectly, and it was so harmonious. And that's one of my happiest memories, is just eating with my family. We would all gather around one table and eat till we burst. And I almost did burst on one occasion eating this. So one thing I found, which Asian people will probably know, the tomatoes are different. The tomatoes in Asia have a lot more flavor to them. I don't know why, but they're way more flavoursome. Whereas over here in England, when I buy these are tomatoes on the vine, they seem to be kind of more bland, more watery, less flavourful. Normally when I make it over here, I use tin tomatoes because it has a lot more concentrated flavour. That was absolutely delicious. However, I still think my family version is better. So what I'll do is I will record a different recipe of my family's. I will show you the differences and also review the two. This one, it was a lot more creamy. There was less flavour from the egg because the egg was almost raw when I first took it off the heat, but by the time it got to here and we started filming, it was already cooked from the residual heat. If I was a tiny bit quicker, it would have looked a lot more like the picture. Because the egg was put in at the very end, it didn't touch the oil, so it didn't have the flavour, which is really a crucial part of this, I think. However, saying that, an egg and tomato stir fry is an egg and tomato stir fry, regardless of how you make it is always delicious. So for those of you who've never ever imagined the combination of egg and tomato, this is a great chance for you to try it. It's simple, it's extremely light, and it's healthy. If you're gonna just copy the Final Fantasy style, then sure, do it like this, but if you want a really truly delicious experience, put the egg in first. So this is the end of episode 16 of Cooking Final Fantasy 15 Foods, yay! Next week I will be making another surprise dish. It's going to be extremely delicious and I'm really excited for that, so I hope you guys will look out for that. Thank you so much for subscribing. Please do subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Like this video so that you can show me how much you like it, and comment below to tell me what your ideas are or anything that's happened since last time, or any new dishes you've tried to make from my recipe list. And the best ones are when you guys try to make them and either succeed or fail. And if you do fail, I can always give you tips and hints, as will other people who have tried as well. So please do comment, because it really, really does make my day every single time, and I love reading your comments. And thank you so much for those 8 people who have become my patrons on Patreon. I am now getting about $19 per month, which is great because that's almost covering one of the cheaper meals. So I really hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed eating it, and I shall see you next week with a mystery recipe. Until then, have a great week and see you later. Bye bye.